missed something. So yeah, the platform in Indonesia started in 2014. It was officiated or launched in September 2014, and start I think October of 2014. Foxby developed the National Action Plan for Sustainable Palm Oil, or we call it here in Indonesia, it's called RAN KSB. And there were 4 working groups within Foxby at that time who is working on the actions. So Ibu Aisyah facilitated the root cause analysis discussion, and then also facilitated the working group work in developing and determining the action. So there was 4 components in the National Action Plan. The first component is about building smallholder capacity. The second component is about environmental management. The third component is about conflicts and governance. Conflict resolution and governance, and the fourth component is about Indonesian sustainable palm oil standards. So those are the first 4 components in the National Action Plan. And then after the actions was drafted, the 4 working groups became idle because a drafting team, multi-stakeholders drafting team, consists of representative from the working groups, and it consists of 4 different stakeholders, just like what we had in the methodology. So there's government, private sector, NGOs, and also association that is part of the work, the drafting team. We call it drafting team. So in 2016, the drafting team formed, and since then they are the one who is active. So the 4 working groups is now idle. And in 2017, we formed the steering committee that is consists of high-level government officials. So it's Echelon 1. It's a level of Director General or DGs from 10 ministries that will be responsible to implement the National Action Plan. So in 2017 also, for the first steering committee meeting, they agreed with the content of the National Action Plan, and it's open for public consultations. So yeah, so public consultation was done in 2017 until the 2018, where finally the steering committee said that National Action Plan should be under legal umbrella, so it has to be legalized. And then we had several, I think two steering committee meetings at that time to discuss about NAP legal umbrella. So there has been changes also in the legal umbrella. So mid 2018, last year, because currently the government also revamping the Indonesian Sustainable Palm Oil Standard or ISPO standard into a higher legal umbrella. It previously is under a ministry decree. Now it's going to be under presidential regulation. So when the steering committee review the National Action Plan, they said at the beginning they said it should be under presidential instruction. But then when it is presented to the coordinating minister of economic affairs, which is led the revamping of ISPO, he said that it should be included or combine with the ISPO presidential regulation. So since mid last year until the end of last year, 2018, we were working on how to combine the two uh, subjects, yeah, ISPO and the NAP, into one presidential instruction. At the end of 2018, we it got reviewed by the state secretariat, which is they're the one who will be responsible to review all draft regulations to be submitted to the president office. And then they said that these two cannot be combined, and NAP has to has their own legal umbrella. And so we had the first, so we had a steering committee meeting at that time to discuss which legal umbrella of NAP. And then the steering committee decided that it should be under a presidential regulation. So until March, April this year, so we then reformat the NAP again to become a presidential regulation. And when we submitted the draft to the Secretary Minister of uh, of the Economic Affairs, and because last year, actually this year is a political year for Indonesia. It's a presidential election and also the legislative election. So he said that they they would like to see the NAP being legalized before the change of cabinet, which is this October. So yes, so he said that if this is under presidential regulation, it will take a long time because there's going to be a process called harmonization under, and it has to be submitted to Ministry of Law. So he said that we cannot make it before October. So now they changed it into presidential instruction. So we have worked, since then we have worked with the Ministry of Coordinating Affairs, the State Secretariat, and Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Forestry, and Ministry of Land Agency to draft the NAP. Or not to draft, sorry, to draft the presidential instruction so that it can be submitted to the president office this month. So we finished the process, and we had the last meeting last week. So the coordinating minister office right now is drafting the letter to president office so that they can submit the NAP for president to sign it. So we're expecting that within this month until next month, finger crossed, NAP will be signed by the president. So we had this workshop with Life. Life was coming to Indonesia in February.
So two more minutes, Rini.
Okay, yes, Life was coming to Indonesia in February, and then we had this multi-stakeholder workshop to see how actually NAP can be implemented. So we're going to make like a NAP implementation strategy, and then the stakeholders said that we don't have to wait until NAP legalized. We have to start implementing the National Action Plan. So now that we are in this stage, we would like to hear actually and learn, especially on the structure of the platform itself, how is it structured so that it can facilitate the implementation of the National Action Plan. We have the issues also about the sustainability of the platform and how actually to build the stakeholders, especially the government, support so that the platform can be sustainable after our project support. So I think that's my main questions. If Ibu Aisyah or other Indonesia team would like to add, please feel free to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Rini. I'm going to discourage the additions from other team members because we're halfway through the call and we haven't yet got into the learning piece. So that was a 15-minute summary. That was great. I think it might be important just to mention for the folks on the call, like who aren't from Indonesia, that there are provincial platforms running that are doing stuff too and have a longer life in the project or not, right? Is that right?
Longer life, what do you mean?
Well, you say so the project's coming to an end.
Yes.
So is that all the provincial platforms and Foxbee at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. So that's the background. I propose a couple of questions to look at. So there are 4 different questions. I just want to read them out and tell me if you want to change them or add something or remove one. Maybe we want to prioritize as well. What we're going to do is split everybody up into 3 different breakout rooms. And you can talk about all 3 questions together. And then we'll come back and hear what kind of ideas or possible options there are moving forward. Yeah. So the first question was, how can the implementation and monitoring of the action plan be best supported? Which I think was what you just asked, really, right? Like, how do we, I think your ask was like, what was the structure of the platform to support the implementation, right? So maybe we can say, how can the implementation and monitoring of the action plan be best supported by what kind of platform structure? Yeah. And then what can a Foxbee secretariat look like, which is partly the structure of the platform? And then what activities are essential in this stage to embed Foxbee in the palm oil system? This is the question around institutionalization over the long term. Yeah. And then I added like, well, which stakeholders are involved in what? Because you could have different, like the secretariat and then institutionalization processes and monitoring processes. And it's like, who's involved in what? So maybe really first you and then anyone else who wants to throw in. Are those questions the right questions? Do you want to change anything or?
I'm fine with the questions. I think that's the questions that we need. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on the call have any feedback on the questions? Or any questions about the questions?
Just Liz, is this the first round of question? Will there be another round of questions?
No, there will not be another round of questions. We've got 25 minutes left. You'll be broken up into 3 groups and you'll discuss all the questions and then report back.
Okay, I think Ibu Rini, I heard her also talk about wanting to exchange around implementation, you know, before even, I think she wants to hear what can be done on implementation, no? Even before legalization, like an implementation strategy.
Yeah, so that you can answer that under question 1. That's not dependent on legalization, question 1.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, great. So Matthias is going to put you into groups, and I think we'll start with 10 and then we'll check in with you and see if you need more time, but probably 15 we'll try to give you because there's quite a few questions, but we also want to make sure we have time to share when we come back. So you'll see something pop up on your screen and it will be an invitation to join a breakout room. So click, yes, I want to join. Yeah. I'll see whoever you are later.
We need more time.
I know. We do too.
More, more coffee.
Please,
I thought
extra
there are
time, please, for us.
I thought we will have a check-in process first,
We have one discussion actually.
but suddenly we are cut off.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how it works, I'm afraid. But let's do a round of like, you know, let's not report everything that was discussed, because I think we have a tendency just to tell the whole story. And if we did that, each of you would take 15 minutes and then we would be here for 3 hours. But if there were, what are the top 3 things that you are taking away from that in terms of support for Foxbee in Indonesia? And everybody will get a chance to say that. So that means for each group, 9 things. Does that make sense? So top 3 things that you were like, oh, this seems really essential, useful, an opportunity, maybe a way forward, those kind of things. Would anyone like to start?
Yeah, maybe I can start.
Great.
I'm excited to hear the Costa Rica experience. Sorry that we didn't discuss the questions about, but we are trying to compare what to do in Costa Rica and Indonesia. So I think we have the same challenges from the government side. That is the takeaway number 1. And in palm oil in Indonesia, it's much more complicated because we involve, as Rini mentioned, 10 in the current Foxbee structure, but actually the presidential instruction said there are 16 government.
So, Ibu Aisha, I'm just going to interrupt you because it would be great if you could model a really high summary level. Like, so, okay, so great. Same challenges with government in Costa Rica. Right. It's more complicated in Indonesia. What's your second point?
My second point that, yeah, even it is difficult to make internal coordinations among the government agencies.
Right.
That's the, yeah. And what is the third one? I missed that. Maybe my friend from Costa Rica can add to that.
Who's that? Do you want to pass it to your friend?
Jairo.
Okay.
Jairo. Okay. Well, I'm going to put it in 3 words. Challenges all the time. The importance of the communication strategy that must be developed each time that you have a governmental change, and the use of the projects and resources available in the UNDP and the United Nations scheme or projects to implement some of the key action that you will identify. So I think I stay with those 3.
Great. I'm just writing this down, Jairo. Key actions. Great. So importance of comm strategy every time the government changes. Yeah. Awesome. Who else was in your group, Jairo?
¿Quién más estaba? Kathleen.
Okay, let's pass to Kathleen.
Kathleen and Pascali.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my 3 things I would think about Liberia here, and we're not to the act, but just how to be prepared for change in the government, that it's going to happen and it'll happen maybe multiple times, and how to think through the management of that. I really liked a piece that Jairo shared about the community commitment and different stakeholder groups signing on to, maybe it's not legalized, but being committed to the action plan, and then the piece around communication strategy. And the importance of making things public. So there's a pressure from the public, so to speak, or different sectors to make things, keep it going and keep the actions moving. Good conversation. Thanks, everyone. And Pascal was the 4th person.
Yeah, you guys have, I think, covered it all. Yeah, a key takeaway for me is to go for the low-hanging fruits in terms of trying to find some small tangible actions that participants can implement early on, even before legalization, so to show that something is possible and tangible.
Great. Nice discussion. Which group would like to go next? Jency. Sandra. Yes.
No, I was saying Riftan or Jency if they want to share what we were talking about.
Okay. Jency, you want to start?
I can start.
Okay.
We talk a lot about the need to establish the monitoring committee. That's the first one. The second one, clearly the platform need more support assistance about how to run this platform. We understand that there are a lot of resources, but more assistance is still needed. And the last one, we're talking about the need to monitor your schedule, your planning, the roadmap. So you're not just focusing on, legalizing or signing this, but you have to plan ahead before deciding. Thank you.
Great. Do you want to pass to someone in your group, Jency?
Sandra?
Yes, thank you, Jency. Yeah, we discussed also, the role of the secretariat, who will have this role, and if is UNDP role, then you need some, commitment from UNDP on the country office. And as Jency was mentioning, it's important to plan ahead. Because when we are, developing the action plan, we just focus on that and we forget about the implementation. And something that came out was that maybe it will be interesting to know more about the monitoring system that the Pineapple platform developed, and maybe in another call, Jairo could share the experience of, working with the monitoring online system. Word for you, Jairo, sorry.
And who else is in your group, Sandra? Do you want to pass it to someone?
Yes, and Rifdan and Bharati.
Okay, so Rifdan, do you want to share your 3 big takeaways and then pass it to Bharati?
Okay, about our experience, actually, just a week ago, we just made a meeting with, some private sectors and then NGOs and the community. They have a commitment actually with this kind of a platform, but the main focus is about the government. They said if it's driven by the government, so everyone will follow the the policy or the regulations. And of course, this kind of platform that will be legalized soon will have a big impact to all provinces that has the commodity of the palm oil in Indonesia, because there are about 26 provinces that produce palm oil in Indonesia, and each province has its own unique characteristic. So we have a three districts in 3 provinces. They have a different characteristic, like in Sumatra, North Sumatra, Riau, and West Kalimantan, and they have their own characteristic. And then we want to make some the effective monitoring system and advance. And of course, in internal team in SPOI, Burini as the platform manager and also Putri as a national project manager, we always discuss about what is the next step that we will take. And we want to have some lesson learned from another countries that have a success story before, and we want to adapt some maybe some works that we can implement in our work later. So that's my opinion about this platform of Foxbee. Lies about that.
Great, thank you. Bharati, what are your 3 takeaways from your breakout group?
Basically, it's the same like Costa Rica challenges that have to, we have to integrate between what government objective and our platform core objective. So this is really challenge because we also have to coordinate within the government institution. And in the district level, just last week, we have already signed the district action plan of sustainable palm oil in South Tapa. Has already signed by our regions. So it has,
congratulations.
yes, thank you. And it has already become the action plan of sustainable palm oil in district South Tapanuli. So I think our communication and our strategies to integrate between what actually government needs and how we can combine with our core objective of the platform. It is very challenging, but it has been nearly 2 years from the beginning until this process. So the decree has been signed. So we just start how to implement this decree to the district level.
Great, thanks, Bharati. So I'm going to come over to you, Rini, and then Maggie and Andreas, I'll come to you after. But Rini, you're writing a lot of questions on the chat, so why don't you ask them right now?
I know that Costa Rica is already advancing than Indonesia, that they already implement the national action plan. So I just want to know how actually the structure of platforms in Costa Rica, and also what are the issues of the implementation of the NAP, especially in keeping the commitment from the stakeholders. So just maybe for 5 minutes from Sanda and Hero later. Yeah.
Great. Hero, would you like to go first?
Well, that is a really good question. But actually, it's important to take care that Costa Rica is more simple than the Indonesia. All the things, the geographical issues, the cultural issues is more simple. So the platform he worked through working groups that were aligned with the main problems that we identify in the root cause analysis. And it's important to see that we work only at a national level when we talk about pineapple. Again, Costa Rica is smaller than Indonesia. So for us, we're more simple because we only have a national structure than go to the main production area to develop some of the working groups. For example, if we were working with agrochemical, we go straight to the areas where pineapple is under production and they have problems with water contamination. So for us was really easy, and the structure, talking about pineapple, was really, really simple. And I think then the issues, talking about implementation of the national action plan, are related with the political will. Yeah, as some of our colleagues said, this process is led by the government. So sometimes, and it happens each time that we have a change in the presidential structure, we almost must start again, try to keep the things on the way, but we need to start again, convince all the governmental structure to provide us support. So I think the main issues related with that changes. And also it's important to say that other of the issues is the economical factor, because sometimes we have really low prices in pineapple, so the people is more focused in solve that kind of problems. And it happens also with the government. In this moment, we have a crisis in our country because we are spending more than the money than we collect. So I think these two issues are really complex. And the third one, I think, is related with the lack of will of the big producers, because they want to stay in their comfort area. And most of the changes that are proposed in the national action plans means go away of your comfort area. So I go with these two related with the government and other related with the productive sector. So I think it's all that I have in mind right now.
Great, thanks, Hiro. before I come to you, Sandra, I just want to add that in terms of the structure for the Pineapple platform now, the monitoring committee is really not functional, and the ombudsman, because there's a presidential decree that the monitoring committee has to happen, but the ombudsman has written to the president to say you need to have a meeting, right, of the monitoring committee because you haven't done it. So it's working and not working, right, just so you know. And also I want to say that Kiefer, who's the E1 of Costa Rica, right, so in the E1 of Costa Rica, he has found other project funding inside UNDP to pay for Jairo to keep giving attention to the Pineapple platform. There isn't like a secretariat, there isn't like a team, there's just Jairo and Kiefer who are keeping the machine going, right?
Okay,
just
Lisa,
so that you know, yeah.
I want to add something.
Sure.
Number one, the rule of the observers. As you say, the Ombudsman Office has been key in this change of government. And right now, the steering committee is not working, is important, and thank you for saying that. But we keep this Ombudsman Office making pressure. And the other thing is UNDP, because UNDP not only provides support economically, we also include UNDP in the scheme of the national, in the secretariat. In that order, we can make some pressure, between the Ombudsman Office and UNDP in these moments when we have big changes and they don't want to talk about Pineapple because they are worried because of the crisis that we have economically. So I think that thing is really important. Thank you, Lisa, for reminding us that. Yeah, thank you. And I think, just to summarize, one of the things we've learned recently and updating in the guidance is that when the NAP is legalized for implementation, UNDP needs to stay involved for a long time. This is not the moment to hand over responsibility, at least two, maybe 3 more years, depending on how complicated it is. And I would say Indonesia is the most complicated we have in the world. So it's not the time to be like exit strategy. It's the time for how do we stay in, right? It's the time for how do we stay in. So, yes. Sandra? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So in the case of the fisheries platform, there are similarities and differences with Jairo was saying. I think that the political will is key. And this is for both platforms. There is like a message from the government, to stop the platform process. And this is because, and I think is my perspective is that they feel that they are, like how you say exposure. There is a democratic dialogue, very horizontal, and the government doesn't feel comfortable with that. So for the Pineapple and for the fisheries, for different reasons, they say, let's stop that, right? I don't know if you agree. So this is one thing. In the case of the fisheries platform, the plan is not legalized yet, but what it's the structure that you were asking, Rini, we had a project steering committee according to the requirements of the UNDP projects, and it's a high-level steering committee, only with the three main government institutions. And then we have what was like a technical advisory group, and then this technical advisory group became a platform steering committee, but it's more like, medium decision level. And that was like functional, but at the end there is a difference between what is going on here and what is going here. So I think that the next step, I don't know when it's going to happen, is to merge both of them in order to have private sector and high-level governmental institutions together in a in a monitoring committee, but it doesn't happen yet. So this is what is going on now. Is that I was sharing that in the small group, is that the implementation is happening in a spontaneous way, but we don't have a system to collect or report all this information. And as Jairo was mentioned also, the Ombudsman office is playing a key role because they are also part of the fisheries platform, and they are asking the government, when are you going to establish the monitoring committee that you publicly commit to do that the last year, and where you're going to legalize the action plan. And as Liz was mentioned, the case with the fisheries platform is the same as with pineapple. The project of the fisheries platform finished the last year, was running out of money, but the UNDP KIFA hired me, to continue this year doing different, fisheries things and other things. And I'm still playing a role in the, in the platform. So it's key to have this commitment of the UNDP country office with, and establish a clear role of what, what is going to be the role of UNDP. But it's what Liz said. I mean, at this moment, if UNDP disappeared off the map, nothing is going to happen. So, this is more or less the situation. But and the other thing is that in our case, the private sector is very committed with the project. So this is something that we have discussing, that since the platform are led by the government, when you have a very empowered private sector, then you are missing an opportunity if you don't give them a key role. So maybe, they can start to implement the project, in kind of coordination with the government, but, to take advantage of, the momentum, because really they want to continue with that. But since it's not legalized, then it seems that nothing is happening, but at the same time they're implementing. So I don't know if it gives you more clarity or not.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Great. I just want to come back to Meggie and Andreas, because we didn't hear your voices in terms of your 3 learnings from the group that we were in with Rini. Meggie, you want to go?
Yeah, okay. So my takeaways from what we discussed before. Monitoring system is urgent to be established. Because we are now in the process of having the National Action Plan legalized or institutionalized. So we have to move forward to have to think about how we implement and monitor the National Action Plan. And then the second is about the communication strategies, where you mentioned about the production of newsletters. That is very smart, actually, to raise awareness of the stakeholders that join in the platform. And the third one is the collective action that you mentioned also, that we have to involve all the multi-stakeholders to have a meeting or a workshop or a dialogue about a current situation or current stance that we actually Indonesians palm oil face right now. So yeah, that's from me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Maggie. Andreas?
Thank you. So just the result from our discussion, the 3 things that came into my mind is that the National Action Plan presidential instruction will, I think we all agree that it will become a political momentum from the government. And also, just like we already know, that private sectors are waiting for the government's leadership, and through this signage by the president, it could be a positive signal for private sector as well. I also took a note from Liz that we need to keep in touch with the steering committee, the high-level government, the director general, which also is be part of our plan. We have planned to have 3 discussion sessions in this month, actually, regarding budgeting of government institution with the national development planning minister. So this also could, to some extent, answers the sustainability of the platform itself. and the implementation of the NAP. I mean, like Jairo already mentioned, that changes of government could also affect the commitments. So by ensuring the budgeting of the national development minister, and then we could also at least be safe in this part. And the last thing actually came from me, that the NAP or the regional action plan, either provincial or district level, doesn't necessarily need to be developed to all provinces. Those 3 provinces, which are pilot provinces, are a very good example, leading provinces, leading districts, pilots. But to keep the momentum going, to keep it efficient, I think we think that the NAP itself could be implemented to all provinces and districts. I think that's all from me, Lisa. Thank you.
Great. And Rini, let's wrap up with you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the great discussion. Yeah, so I think what is very important for us is that everybody is saying that we need to have a written commitment, from stakeholders, and it will be very good if it's a written commitment. I explained to Liz in our group discussion that especially for the National Action Plan in Indonesia, because it's under presidential instruction, it's mandatory for government ministries, but it's voluntary basis for the private sectors, NGOs, and other stakeholders. So I think to have the written commitment is very key. And then my second, also I think my second takeout is that to keep to have the communication strategy is very important, because we need to make the implementation of the National Action Plan to be as transparent as possible. If possible, to have it online and then can be accessible by public, not only for Indonesian public, but also possibly for the global stakeholders. So yeah, and then also to have to keep the momentum going is that UNDP needs to keep the facilitation. We have discussed that in the project, and then we do realize that we're not just facilitating the development of the National Action Plan, but actually our real work is to make sure that that the National Action Plan is being implemented, and that FOXP is still present, even though UNDP is not there. But I think our project will be until 2021, and I think we cannot yet achieve that target at least for the next 5 years. We still need to facilitate the process, but we understand that our resources is limited, so we will have to find out also strategies on how to keep the NAP being implemented and FOXP still running after the project ends in 2021. Yes, and then also one more thing is that the monitoring and evaluation system is key to monitor the process and also to report back to the stakeholders on the implementation. I think this is also very important to improve buy-in from the stakeholders. So not only at the national level stakeholders, but also the provincial and then district level stakeholders, because the implementation is actually happening at the district level, not at the national level. So we have to not only focusing on the national, but also at the district level. Yes, I think that's all from me. Liz, anybody else would like to add?
Great, thank you,
If
Rini.
sometimes, yes.
So we recorded this, Matthias recorded this for us, so we'll send you a link of the recording, so that there was quite a lot of material, so that you can, especially the last like half an hour, if you want to review it at any point, you can. Also, you know, yeah, I just found it really, I think I found it really, really rich. You know, I hope that I can help in terms of the designing of the Future for Law projects to be able to support what needs to happen. So it was really informative for me from that perspective as well. So thank you for your time in the evening and your time in the mornings, Costa Ricans and Indonesia. And I think there was a request. I'll let you, follow up directly if you want to have a presentation of the pineapple monitoring system. Just to reach out directly to Jairo and you can organize it yourselves. Yeah, you can self-organize that. And it was really nice to connect with you all and spend time chatting. So thank you for participating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. It was very nice.
Liz, may I suggest that, Rini, if you want, to write down something about the ideas and how to follow up with that, maybe we can also give you some feedback, how you are planning to do the implementation, and maybe we can give you some feedback of something that we talk about having like a roadmap, and maybe it can help you to have something structured and.
Okay. We're actually with Life developing the next NAP implementation strategy. So, but we need to finalize that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can share with everybody later when
Great.
we're done with that. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.